Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about a topic that is often overlooked yet plays a crucial role in shaping your creativity as future architects, mimesis and literal interpretation. These are creative channels that many of us use sometimes without even realizing it. You may have experienced this, like working on studio project, hitting a creative block, and scrolling through Pinterest, Instagram, or ArchDaddy for ideas. Suddenly you think this form looks cool, I'll modify it a little, but then you ask yourself, am I copying? Is this original enough? Am I just mimicking a famous architect style? Other times, your lecturer might say, this looks too much like Zaha or this style has been used too often. Try something more personal. But how do you create something truly new in a world overflowing with references? In real world practice, you'll often be asked to design in places bound by strong historical context, strict zoning codes, or client preferences. In those cases, imitation might be unavoidable, and that becomes a creative dilemma. So, today we'll explore this complexity. Architecture doesn't exist in a vacuum, it is surrounded by history, symbols, and familiar forms. The key is to understand when imitation becomes a creative tool and when it traps us in a cliché. Mimesis comes from ancient Greek and means imitating or representation, but in classical aesthetics, its meaning goes much deeper than just copying a shape. Mimesis is about imitating the sense of life, its emotion, rhythm, even meanings through art. This idea is rooted in Greek philosophy, where nature was seen as an ideal. Creating beauty then meant emulating the natural world. This way of thinking influenced the development of architectural styles for centuries. A simple example, a mime artist can express joy, sadness, or grief without words, just through movement and facial expression. That's the power of mimesis. It's not about literal replication, but about evoking emotion. In architecture, mimesis can mean translating the rhythm of nature, the spirit of place, or the social character of space into form. It's not plagiarism, it's transformation of experience into architecture. Architecture, while different from performing arts, share a common goals to create experience and evoke feelings. Take Gothic cathedrals, soaring vertical lines, slender columns, and stained glass filtering sunlight. Visually, they mimic a giant forest. Experientially, they make us feel small, reverent, awestruck. That's spiritual mimesis. There is a reference, yes, but not a literal copy of a tree. The forest is abstracted into structure and light. When understood deeply, mimesis can be a powerful design method for creating emotionally resonant spaces that connect people to ideas and feelings. Not everyone embraces mimesis, especially in modernist movement in 20th century. Imitation was often seen as uncreative, even shameful. Modern architecture emphasizes abstraction. Forms that reference the past were often rejected. For instance, one Greek theorist dismissed the myth that the Corinthian capital was inspired by the Acanthus plant. To him, true creativity couldn't emerge from simply copying visual motifs. This perspective suggests that imitation just prolongs the past, while architecture should move forward, creating new forms for new times. As a student, you may have heard feedback like, this looks too traditional or this feels derivative, but it's all imitation bad. In some design contexts, especially those rooted in history or local identity, it's nearly impossible to avoid some form of references. We must stay critical and see both sides. Contrary to the orthodox view, Rudolf Arnheim offers a more open perspective. He sees art as a form of life play, a way of imitating joyful aspects of life without relieving its pain. In his writing, he says we can borrow the thrill of victory from a battle scene without reproducing the violence. That's useful for architecture. You can design a space that feels adventurous like a forest or mountain trail without literally putting trees inside your building. Arnheim warns, however, about empty imitation, copying visual form without understanding its meaning. He doesn't reject mimesis, but calls us to be selective, thoughtful. So, if you want to design like in the style of Louis Kahn or like Toyo Ito, that's okay. As long as you are studying their logic, not just their facades. It's not about copying what they did, but learning how they thought. Now we enter a very real dilemma in architectural practice, the tension between individual expression and collective identity. In places like Mykonos in Greece, there are strict regulations for buildings. Roofs must be pitched and at certain angles, windows must use specific materials, and walls must be painted white or earth tones. If you want to create something unique, it might be rejected by authorities or local community. But if you follow all the rules, where is your personal expression? Being an architect is not only about creating, it's also about adapting. And sometimes the greatest creativity emerges from within collective constraints. Sometimes you need to adapt design in historic environments. The key is to designing in highly contextual environments is to create synthesis, to combine traditional, the local, require elements with a new personal interpretation. Take for example, the Arcadia Hotel in Surabaya. The front of the building is a preserved historic warehouse, originally part of the Jewelry Company complex. The rear, however, is a modern nine-story structure housing for the new hotel. This design maintains the original character of visible to the street while allowing new functions and height at the back. It's a respectful dialogue between past and the present, between collective memory and contemporary needs. Now, let's talk about the sibling of mimesis, literalism. Literalism occurs when a design directly imitates a specific object in an overly obvious way. For example, a fast food restaurant shaped like a giant hamburger or a donut, or a hotel shaped like a boat. These examples from Texas, or an office building shaped like an elephant. Is this good design, or is it just a visual gimmick that looks good in photos but lacks meaning? The danger of literalism is that it often shuts down thinking. There is no space for interpretation. People understand the message at first glance and then quickly lose interest. Arnhem notes that architectural form can be understood in two ways: how it looks and what it represents. In literalism, those two are the same. A heart-shaped building, both looks like represent love, but because it's so direct, there's no room for reflection of or interpretation. Now compare that to a building with no clear shape references, but which make you feel warm, comfort, or connection, maybe through light, scale, material, and space. That's more subtle and often far more powerful. Still, literalism has a positive side if handled wisely. Many Greek architects are inspired by nature but don't copy it directly. Instead, they abstract it. Take a Sydney Opera House, it doesn't literally look like a ship, but you can feel the inspiration in the way its roof sails open toward the sky. You can do the same. If you take a leaf as inspiration, don't copy its shape. Study its pattern, symmetry, and structure. How veins branch from a central spine. This can inform your design of roof, columns, or daylight strategy. Take a look case studies like Alvar Aalto learned deeply from nature. He sketched its form and rhythm, then translated them into furniture, buildings, even city plans. Rema Pitila was also inspired by nature, but often his buildings become overly expressive and technically complicated, like the Dipoli Student Union in Helsinki. In contrast, John Utzon found a balance between inspiration and feasibility. The Sydney Opera House, inspired by shell and ships, was built using modular elements that were technically manageable. So the lesson, nature can inspire, but your design must still be buildable. Yeah, we have a conflict here. Visionary versus realistic. This is one of the biggest challenges in architecture, transforming a powerful idea into practical reality. You must walk the fine line between being visionary and being realistic. Having bold imaginative concept is essential, but as architects, we are also responsible for delivering spaces that are buildable, livable, and within budget. Students who only draw dream-like sketches but don't think about structure, material, or cost will struggle in the professional world. But you need to realize that architecture is a play, uh, although it's a very serious kind of play. We work with space, light, material, and emotion. But unlike artists or musicians, our creation must stand upright, withstand weather, and last over time. Every form must be justified not just aesthetically but technically. You can start with inspiration from nature, animals, or other objects, but in the end, your design must pass the test of reality. So, can it be built? Can it be maintained? Or can it be used? In architectural education, imitation can be a powerful learning tool. Often studio briefs ask students to design in the style of a master architect. For example, a Louis Kahn-inspired house may focus on shadow, materiality, and geometry. A Tadao Ando-inspired project may explore exposed concrete and poetic light. These assignments are not about producing original work, but about learning how these architects think, their spatial logic, their conceptual priorities. This is a vital part of architectural education. Sometimes in studio, student wants to design a building shape like animal, a leaf, or a water droplet. The instructor might say this is too literal, that's too realistic, but if that form is rooted in deep inspiration and you can translate it into functional buildable architecture, then keep going. The solution is not to throw the idea away, but to refine it. Use methods like abstraction, turn literal shape into structural principle, or visual rhythm, or you can use metaphor, express symbolic meaning rather than physical resemblance, or use systemization, focus on the internal logic, load, path, light distribution, or flow, or you can use contextualization, ask how the form relate to site, culture, and scale. These methods help elevate literal ideas into meaningful architecture. But we must also guard against shallow imitation, copy-paste design without understanding. Changing the color or flipping a layout doesn't make it your own. That's not creativity, that's forgery. If you borrow, know what you're borrowing, study the principle behind it, then reinterpret it through your own lens for your own context. In conclusion, mimesis and literalism are not enemies. They are tools. They can be powerful or problematic, depending on how you use them. Don't be afraid to imitate if you know what you are imitating and why. Use it as a stepping stone towards something deeper, something more personal, something meaningful. The key is transformation, not repetition. I think that's all. Thank you for attention. See you.